All right, welcome to the Warmup Week 5 edition. That's Jeff Power. I'm Ward Faso. We are talking Week 5 in the city of Houston, and it's a rare occurrence when we get 2 game of the week caliber games right off the bat here. And I tell you what, let's get right into the lineup with game of the week number 1, we'll call it, which is Iowa Colony versus Richmond Randle. That is a terrific 5A matchup.
Man, I am so excited about this game, and I know you are too, Ward. Iowa Colony, they've outscored their opponents through 4 weeks, 199-38. In fact, our bobblehead recipient, Jaden Warren, averages about 70 yards receiving per game and has recorded 8 touchdowns. Quarterback Carson White, I love the way he plays, man. 14 touchdown passes, 4 on the ground. He's so explosive. He'll be the key. Both of those guys verbally committed to University of Houston. And, hey, Aaron Tenner, 8 touchdowns. He's averaging 90 yards rushing per game. I think he's someone to watch out for, definitely on the ground. And now defending champion Randle, you talk about some points. They're coming off a 51-7 win over defending state champion Fort Bend Marshall. We all know Landon Willis Callis is the man, 216 yards per game, 9+ touchdowns. And you know the thing about him, he's just a bulldozer out there. But keep an eye also for some of these receivers like DeCorian Rubin, about 80 yards receiving per game. Ashton Johnson, he's got 3 touchdown catches and is also a big threat. And it's all starts with Tyler Skrabanek, the quarterback, 8 touchdown passes. And definitely Randle will be the first real test this year for Iowa Colony. We'll see how it goes. The over-under might be about 100 on this game. And by the way, Randle has beaten Foster, Elsick, Travis. And Travis, actually, we'll get to them in a minute. They did score 29 points against Randle. That could be key. But that win last week over Marshall was impressive. They were up 35-0 at halftime. And I tell you what, Randle and Iowa Colony, it'll be a good one.
I'm going to go ahead and make a promise to you. This is the first of 2 games. I promise you they will play again in the playoffs. This is 1A, Klein versus Klein Collins, and everything's on the line here in 15-6A.
Yeah, you talk about some offensive juggernauts. Well, first of all, Klein is probably the most impressive offense we've seen so far this year, and I never thought I'd say that. They're averaging 63 points per game. Last week's 44-20 win over Klein Forest was the lowest output so far this season for Klein. Edward Kelly, about 179 yards on the ground per game, 8 touchdowns. He's already up to 715 yards rushing for the season, and you've seen him, Ward. He's so elusive out there, the way he runs, and Grant Strata, the quarterback, the way he shifts the ball around, he's got 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 passing touchdowns, 459 yards through the air, and he's completing 70% because a lot of it is that dink and dunk stuff that he gets over to Kelly. So the offense under Nick Caduti is definitely doing a great job. But I promise you, Klein Collins, I've seen them twice in person. The Tigers will run the football. They'll play ground control. They'll keep the score down. They're undefeated for a reason. They did score 42 points twice this year, beating Willis and Magnolia West for a combined 84-13 total. The other 2 games against College Station and Tomball were 1-score games. Collins scored 35 points against both of those teams. Watch out for Braden Shoggan, the quarterback. 90 yards rushing per game, has 7 TDs on the ground. He is really good at the old tush push. Keep an eye on him.
The old tush push. And then in 21-6A, I tell you what, Travis has already gotten Hightower. If they beat Ridge Point, then we're going to go ahead and hand them the district title this early in the season. But Ridge Point don't lose to anybody, I don't think, in that district. So tell me what's going to happen in this one.
Hey, you know, Travis has been one of the surprise teams this year. Only 1 loss, as you mentioned. They did beat Hightower 46-40 last week. So, hey, but you know what I thought was impressive? Did you see they beat Maid Creek and Jordan out of Katy ISD to start the season? And now that I've actually had a chance to see both Jordan and Maid Creek up close and personal, I think that is a very impressive couple of wins right there. They got some dudes. Of course, Kosi Okpala, defensive end for the Rams. He's a stud. But Travis's only loss did come to Randle, 56-29. And Ridge Point is pretty comparable to Randle. So they're going to be tested. This is a Ridge Point team that's coming off a 56-10 win over Elkins. Ridge Point also beat Clear Springs 62-23, Fulshear 34-10, and Bridgeland 31-3. And I think that game might have been the impressive win they've had this year because I thought Bridgeland was definitely one of the teams to beat in their district. Brody Bartee, he gets it done at QB. DJ Darling and Balin George, of course, 5 touchdown catches between the two of them. Aiden Akins, he's got 4 touchdown catches and 4 on the ground. So they're loaded, and their defense is good too. So I really look for Ridgepoint to kind of flex their muscles in this game against Travis.
Ridgepoint is definitely a machine, and you were talking about 1968 earlier.
Yeah.
Big win for Paetow last week against Tompkins to kind of get a foot up in the playoff race. And I went ahead and got a chance to talk to their head coach, David Hicks, and we'll talk about that in our Media Day segment.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Serving up the best treats and eats in Texas. Stop by DQ and treat yourself before and after the game.
All right, Coach Hicks joins us now. And Coach, you guys are off to a good start here in district play. You get one under your belt. But it's tough when you got one of the upper echelon teams you're going up against right off the bat. You took care of business, over 55 points in that game. Talk to me about how you feel going into 19-6A play, because, as you know, this district, you can't slip up once or all of a sudden you're in jeopardy of missing out on the postseason.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a lot of that, it's one of the toughest districts in the state of Texas. I think just like you said, any slip up, because on any given Friday, Thursday night these days, it can happen for you, so you got to come in and play every week. You got to bring it every week, got May Creek coming up. So really looking forward to that. I think the kids, they did a great job coming off a bye week and just being prepared to play, and just rising up to the occasion.
Yeah, talk about that May Creek game, because that is coming up. They're up and coming, and they have a defensive player, much like you do, that you have to game plan for. Mm-hmm. When Cozy's out there on the end, he's so quick, he's so fast. And we're talking right now on a Sunday. Is that something that you guys are working on right now? Like how we can
we're trying to game plan a way to block him for sure. We had a game plan a way to block him. They also throw him in on offense as well. So, again, he's one of our top players in our district. That's one of the ones that you're always going to have to game plan for and always be prepared for, because, again, he can make things happen. He can make things happen offensively, defensively. He's on special teams. He's a special player.
What have you liked so far about your team that maybe surprised you through for the non-district in that first game? Like maybe in August you weren't quite sure what you had, but now all of a sudden, all right, this is pretty sweet. I got such and such to do.
There's no really big surprises. It's something that we've been working on since last November, since our last game. We came in and, we circled it on the map to, as far as on the calendar, just to keep working. We've been chopping wood and just carrying water every day and, just trusting the process. I got a couple of young first-time starters in the defensive secondary. I think they grew a whole lot from first game to now. They're doing a great job and, just a whole depth thing, those kind of things that we just did not know about, but I think that we really, really harped on just developing the talent that we have over the summer and from January all the way to now. So, they've really bought in. They really bought into the culture of the program.
Well, finally, one of the guys that you've kind of developed throughout the years is Daryl Campbell on your defensive line. We're doing a story on him this week, and I wanted to just kind of speak on him as an athlete and on his progression over there at Paetow.
Man, honestly, man, he's one of the hardest working kids I ever been around. He can range up to, I remember when he first got here as a freshman on campus, he's 340 pounds. It's like, hey man, you have to, lose some weight and, And he shows up like 260. I'm like, whoa, too much, man, too much. But, but that's just the kind of kid that he is. He's so coachable. He's hard working. There's never a problem in the classroom. He's one of our leaders in the locker room. He's going to show up on time, ready to work. You have a true character of your team is, how hard are the better kids on your team working, and he really puts in the work to be great. So, it's no surprise that, he's getting all the things that he's worked for and, all the things that he's actually put in the time to get. So.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we'll take a look at you Thursday night against May Creek, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Parker University. Check out our bachelor's degree in strength and human performance today.
All right, I'll tell you what, Jeff, the one thing I did not do is challenge my man to an arm wrestling thing, because he would have broke my arm off, and I've been the one-armed man out there shooting sports, because that's a big dude over there, Coach Hicks.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the agenda. There's only one game in 16-6A this week, and it's a doozy. Cy Ranch versus Cy Springs. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, Cy Ranch, they're 1-2, but their convincing win over New Caney, 62-7, was impressive. Their two losses, by the way, to Tompkins and Memorial, were very winnable games. In fact, they lost both by a combined total of 6 points. I like our bobblehead recipient, Calvin Thomas, whose father played at Texas A&M, like Hicks' son right now, right?
Yeah.
And Thomas, he's a DB. He's all over the field. He had a little bit of an injury earlier this year, but he's looking good now. Cy Springs, they are the real deal, though. They're 3-0. They beat Fort Bend Bush 49-14, Ailey Taylor 35-14, and then after they topped Taylor, they beat Jersey Village 58-0. And if we're going to stay on this bobblehead theme, Paris Melvin, he's the man. I love what you guys did. The headband looks fantastic. He was going crazy when he showed us that. But he's going to the Houston Cougars as a commit there. And even though some of his stats don't look that impressive, but when you go see him play, he's all over the place. He'll do the wildcat. He's going out for catches. He runs the ball a lot. The other big running back for them is Jared Hager, who's got he's the quarterback, but 109 yards on the ground. So he's definitely a stud and someone else to watch out for.
Absolutely. And if we're sticking on the bobblehead theme, we have Atascocita with Carday Mack against C.E. King with Deion Sims. They both have them sitting them on their shelves somewhere. Tell me this is a kickoff to 23-6A, so talk to me about this one.
Yeah, both those guys are shifty. They're tough runners. They got a big line in front of them. Atascocita has played a tough schedule, beating Lamar and Katy before falling to Westlake 35-28. They were off last week, and that's key. They've had time to really check into C.E. King and find out what they need to do. And, King, they've beaten Westfield. They beat DeCaney handily. The loss to Dickinson was actually impressive. It was a shootout, but, Deion Sims, as you mentioned, 108 yards per game on the ground. He is one of those guys, I'm thinking, you may not want to get in the shootout. Just give him the ball, let him slow that game down a little bit.
I got you. And then finally, in 11-5A Division I, most of the fans of this district are just waiting for that Angleton-LaPorte matchup, but they got to get through the rest of the district too, including Angleton playing New Caney Port.
Yeah, well, and Porter beat Galena Park and Pasadena Memorial, and then they took on Dayton. Dayton beat Crosby earlier this year. Porter's going to have their hands full, though. This district matchup against Angleton, who's 3-0. Of course, the Wildcats, they've got Caleb Jammer. Remember him. Yeah. He's a stud. Of course, he is the son of Quentin Jammer, but, former Texas Longhorn and San Diego. Did I say San Diego? How about the L.A. Chargers?
Hey, he was San Diego when he played up there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bailing me out on that one. But also, you know what? He's also the nephew of current Tennessee Titan Quandre Diggs. So obviously, Caleb Jammer, it runs in the family. About 115 yards receiving per game for him. He's got 7 touchdown catches from his quarterback, Bryce Duran, who has 9 TD passes total. So Angleton likes to throw it around. They can also play defense. If they need to go to the ground, they've got Wyan Nealon, who's averaging about 68 yards per game on the ground for the Wildcats.
Excellent. Well, I hope everybody is warmed up for week 5. Last week we had an upset of somewhat with Willis beating the Woodlands, and that affected the rankings. So that's what we're going to leave you with. It's the coaches' rankings, and we'll wait to see you all next week.